He is the man over at RotoWorld Fantasy Football. Obviously, Evan, optimism is high for everybody listening in their fantasy football leagues. Let's start with the Patriots and what we need to know in your mind in terms of who are the right guys to play and not to play tonight and moving forward now that Julian Edelman's out for the year.
Yeah, and that slot role in New England has been extremely productive historically. You can think back to Wes Welker and then Julian Edelman, so it spans longer than a decade. The position has just been extremely fruitful, and not with guys who were necessarily highly thought of at any other point in their careers, really. Wes Welker was an undrafted guy who didn't have great measurables. The Patriots stole him away from the Dolphins as a restricted free agent, and even Julian Edelman, he was a converted quarterback, seventh-round pick out of Kent State, who actually hit the free agent market previously and didn't even generate much interest from other NFL teams. But what those guys didn't have, they made up for with just trust from Tom Brady on, timing routes and option routes. And I think that in his second year with the Patriots, we're going to see that Chris Hogan has that chemistry with Tom Brady. And we saw flashes of it in the third preseason game, which teams treat like a regular season dress rehearsal, the big flashy offseason acquisition. Brandon Cooks was quiet in that game, but Brady and Chris Hogan were on the same page in lockstep. Brady targeted Hogan 4 times in that game. Hogan caught all 4 for 70 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think we see Chris Hogan get off to a really hot start tonight against the Chiefs, who just lost their starting slot corner, Steven Nelson, to injured reserve, and their backup slot corner, Phillip Gaines, allowed an almost perfect 143.8 passer rating on throws into his coverage in the slot last year. So I think that Chris Hogan is going to eat up Philly Gaines inside.
So I know that most people's drafts are over at this point, obviously, but I still want to know whether it's for daily or for who to sit or play. Who's the right guy to own in the Patriots backfield? Is it James White? Is it Burkhead? Is it Gillislee? Who's the guy?
Yeah, everyone assumed that Mike Gillislee would be the Patriots' one-for-one replacement for LeGarrette Blount when the Patriots signed him away from the Bills. But Mike Gillislee wound up barely practicing in the spring due to a hamstring strain. And then he really didn't get healthy until the end of training camp. And there have been some whispers that the Patriots are down on Gillislee. And I'll be interested to see the Patriots inactives list tonight when it comes out about an hour and a half before the game. I think there's a chance that Gillislee is going to actually be inactive for this game. I'm not saying that that's likely, but I think that there's a chance, especially after the Patriots just re-signed Brandon Bolden, because now look at the Patriots 53. They have 5 backs on their 53. They have Mike Gillislee, Brandon Bolden, Dion Lewis, James White, and Rex Burkhead. And because Bolden is so valued on special teams, I think he's going to dress and play. And so someone here is probably not going to dress, and I wonder if it might be Gillislee. I think that Rex Burkhead might have a breakout game on Thursday night. The Chiefs were not good against the run last year, and I don't think they're going to be very good against the run this year. And we've seen the Patriots attack inside linebackers who they deem pass coverage liabilities before, whether it was Bernardrick McKinney on wheel routes with their running backs in the playoffs. And when they would play the Steelers, they just run Julian Edelman relentlessly at Lawrence Timmons, and Edelman would rack up catches. And I think Rex Burkhead and James White can both be used in those capacities. So I think that James White and Rex Burkhead both have a pretty good shot at having big games tonight.
Talking with my buddy Evan Silva from RotoWorld. You can check him out every week on the Fantasy Feast podcast as well. Speaking of that, Evan, we had our draft last night, and I took Kareem Hunt, who looks to be the running back, I guess, with the Chiefs, pretty much full-time, and also Tyreek Hill. I wanted to get your thoughts on those two guys, the rookie running back Hunt as well as Tyreek Hill, and what kind of points you think he'll be able to put up.
Yeah, Kareem Hunt should be the Chiefs' lead back tonight. I think we'll see Sharkandrick West mix in a little bit on passing downs as a pass blocker. He's just going to be a guy that the Chiefs have a lot of trust in. Kareem Hunt, this is his first NFL game. With Tyreek Hill, he was obviously a super explosive player as a rookie. I mean, he was a highlight reel machine. He had only 85 offensive touches all year, but he scored 12 touchdowns. And now the Chiefs are trying to shoehorn Tyreek Hill into their lead receiver role because they had to cut Jeremy Maclin because of their bad salary cap situation. And then we saw them fire their GM, John Dorsey, which may have been a fallout from that. Either way, now they are relying on Tyreek Hill to be less of a manufactured touch gadget guy and more of a true wideout. But if you go back and look at Tyreek Hill's college resume, he never had a season where he caught 600 receiving yards. So his resume historically just does not really suggest that he is a true wide receiver. So I'm interested to see how he fares in this new role. He starts off with a tough matchup right off the bat against Stephon Gilmore and Malcolm Butler. I think we'll mainly see Malcolm Butler match up with Tyreek, and Stephon Gilmore mostly match up with Chris Conley because Gilmore is a bigger, longer arm guy, and Conley is bigger. And I think the Patriots will want to get physical with Tyreek Hill, and Malcolm Butler is small, but he's really physical. And the Pats just hate to give up big plays. So I would not be surprised if they actually devote more resources to dealing with Tyreek Hill than they do with Travis Kelce in this particular game.
Okay, so let's move on from tonight's game. Let's get to the weekend. Who are the best plays and the worst plays this weekend, whether it's to put in your season-long lineup or daily fantasy or whatever? Who have the best and worst matchups?
I really like Larry Fitzgerald against the Lions. I think he can have a big day against Quandre Diggs or DJ Hayden or whoever the Lions run out there at slot corner. The Lions' top corner, Darius Slay, never moves inside, and Fitzgerald runs 60 to 70% of his routes inside in that old Hines Ward, Reggie Wayne role. Larry Fitz also has a history of starting seasons really hot. I like Zach Ertz a lot against the Redskins. The Eagles traded Jordan Matthews, their slot receiver, who played in the same sections of the field that Ertz does. And in 2 games Jordan Matthews missed last year due to injuries, Zach Ertz was huge. He had 15 targets in a game against the Bengals, caught 9 balls for 79 yards, a touchdown. And in the other one, Ertz had 16 targets and caught 13 balls for 139 yards and 2 touchdowns against Dallas. And with Su'a Cravens, the Redskins projected starting strong safety no longer with the team, I think that Zach Ertz gets a matchup boost. A couple of guys who I think have concerning Week 1 matchups are Michael Thomas on Monday night against Xavier Rhodes, which I think could translate to a sneaky big game for Ted Ginn, especially with Willie Snead on suspension. Dez Bryant got shut down twice by Janoris Jenkins last season. So from that standpoint, Dez has a fairly concerning matchup on Sunday Night Football. The Broncos historically have really had Phillip Rivers' number, so I would be concerned about Rivers playing in Denver in the second game of that Monday night doubleheader.
Evan, really appreciate the time. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.